What's up, witches? You're listening to The Bewitching Hour. I'm your host, Kat, and I'll be dropping exciting episodes covering everything from the history of witchcraft, aliens, the paranormal, ghost stories, and I'm excited to have guests on who have a story to tell, as well as share my experiences and perspective on living life as a modern-day witch. Grab your brooms, because it's about to get real. So I actually have a very special guest for this episode. I recently got to take a girls' trip to New Orleans with my friend Woody. We met up with some of her college friends who now have a very special place in my heart. So shout out to the Coven. I love you guys. I miss you guys. We had such a blast. I haven't been back to New Orleans in probably like 10 years or something crazy. I got to interview Sheena Mannina while I was there. She owns the juice bar Raw Republic that's off Magazine Street in New Orleans. And it was just such an amazing experience. She has such an inviting, warm, calm energy about her. It's hard to explain. So if you guys are ever in New Orleans, definitely be sure to go check out Raw Republic. She also has her own podcast called Raw Talk with Sheena, which I highly recommend. It's actually what got me into podcasting. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and very special thank you to Sheena and her boyfriend Evan and their dog Curtis. They were just so amazing to us. So I hope you guys enjoy. Well, first of all, thank you for having us. This is a beautiful space. It really is. Thank you. And you're right across the street from Ashley Longshore's art gallery. Have you ever met her?
Oh, many times. She's amazing.
Okay.
She's an amazing person to have across the street, because just looking at her gallery, you can see like she embodies being in your big power and just like showing up and being relentlessly who you are. So
and she's very like pro-feminine. So
oh my God, she's just pro everything. She's pro literally anything that you are. And that's why she's such an amazing neighbor to have. I think that we came together kind of at the perfect time. She moved in across the street, I think 2 years after we had been open. And it's been a great partnership since then.
That's so cool. Does it drive you crazy when people think you have a made up last name?
Yes.
Okay. I get it all the time because my last name is Star, so Cat Star, like, yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a
horrible.
The whole name sounds fake.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, beautiful. So are you in porn? Or I'm like, no, but you're funny.
My signature for my email is actually Sheena Mannina. Yes, that's my real name.
I saw that.
And it's on my business card and everything because, people...
Because you're just like, I'm so tired of saying it.
Well, and people just think... I think it's hard for them to take it seriously that that's on my business card unless they know for sure that that's not a made up name. Like they think that like I'm not trying to be an entertainer or a comedian. Like I'm just a business owner.
Right.
So no, I didn't change my last name accordingly. The Sheena Mannina, that's who I am.
Well, for the record, I never thought you had a made up last name because I deal with it all the time. So no worries there. We have a few things to talk about. So I kind of feel like I'm meeting a celebrity right now.
Oh.
Like I said, you were one of the first podcasts I ever listened to, kind of thanks to Stassi Schroeder.
Shout out to Stassi.
Yes. And
she's having a good year.
She really is.
She is.
We talked quite a bit of Vanderpump on the way here, but I didn't want to like take away from you. So I was like, we're not going to talk about Stassi. I just wanted to mention that she was the reason I found you, and I'm very grateful. So
I'm grateful too.
Yeah. And you kind of actually inspired me to start podcasting because you've been doing this for like 2.5 years now.
2 years. Yeah, maybe a little over 2 years.
So that's when I first started listening and like getting into crystals and really just like focusing on wellness and like spirituality.
Amazing.
And like your podcast is what guided me.
Thank you for saying that. I try to work through my stuff through the podcast as honestly as I can. You know, like sometimes when you're going through life, it feels you actually don't know how to communicate what's happening in terms of like the changes, what's happening in terms of your authenticity. Who am I becoming? What am I interested in? Does this still fit me? And so it's a really interesting place to do that behind a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kind of learn how to do it. And so I continuously challenge myself to try to make it an authentic expression, to be very honest about the way that I feel and to have that come through, not just in the words, but in the energy behind what I'm saying. So I really appreciate you being able to see that.
Do you have advice for me, since I'm terrified of doing a solo podcast? Because I feel like I would just talk and talk.
What is your setup when you're doing a solo podcast? Are you by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that if it directs people to who you are, there are certain people who will be brought into your path to learn something specific from you. So it really doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If you can embody what you're experiencing and what you've been learning through your expression, you're absolutely going to be captivating to someone. And that someone may say, you know what, this changed my life. Listen to this. Who knows? The bottom line is that you are learning a craft and it's not going to be perfect ever. So why not just put out what you've created and see what happens? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
truly.
Right. You're so right. Did you grow up in New Orleans?
I did grow up in New Orleans.
So born and raised?
Born and raised in New Orleans. And I went to college in Baton Rouge. And then I moved to New York to study the juicing business.
Oh, okay.
I had anticipated that I didn't think that I would be completely finished learning the business after working. So what happens in the Hamptons is businesses open in April and close in October, usually, and then they close for the winter. And so I knew that I was going to be working for someone who owned 3 juice bars in the Hamptons for that duration. But she also had a small location in Manhattan, and I had anticipated that I was just going to make the move and continue working for her in Manhattan. And there was no possible way. It was completely unsustainable. She was, I had a lot to learn personally before working with someone so closely who had such a strong energy. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit more of a quiet energy, and I need a lot of reserve time and to kind of calibrate what's happening. And in essence, I had learned really everything that I needed, because maybe I didn't need anything other than just a few skills and the confidence to try. So after the time of the Hamptons store closing, I did a raw food certification in Puerto Rico, and I did a meditation certification in Massachusetts. And after that, I was ready to come back, because the intention was always to open a cold pressed juice bar in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. I had to leave because there wasn't even a single one here that I could go behind the bar and play with a juicer. There wasn't a juice bar here.
Yeah.
So
you had to leave.
I had to. And I knew also that New York was kind of the epicenter of the business side of juicing. So I had the good fortune of meeting the CEO of Organic Avenue at that time, which was one of the leading juice bars in Manhattan during that kind of 10-year era, and a few other movers and shakers in the wellness industry. I had done an event with Sakara in the Hamptons when they were just starting. I had met Latham Thomas, who owns Mama Glow, at that same event. And it was just a great time for me to see what a lot of people were doing in wellness to kind of gain that confidence, partnered with, also being able to know that, okay, if I need to pick up 50 pounds of carrots and juice them, I can do that too. And because that's always how it starts. For me, at least, I had to start from okay, can I make a juice recipe? Can I handle everything that it takes? And that's how it started. My boyfriend and I started juicing in a garage.
That's so cool.
And selling at a farmer's market, and then juicing out of someone else's coffee shop all night and selling out the next morning, and then being here in Raw Republic, what it is now, and him being in the kitchen and me being in the front, and that being it. So we've definitely just taken those incremental steps to grow, but it had to start in that way.
So what was it like growing up in New Orleans? Because this is a very fun city.
It's super fun. And the cool thing is that I think that parents are very open to their children experiencing that fun. So they kind of have an understanding, my kid's probably going to be at a bar at 16 and doing that thing like on their own, because there's no farm life around us. There really isn't an opportunity for a lot of nature unless you seek it, I guess. It felt like a very city experience in high school. So I definitely, looking back, I could say that I was in a place where I was seeking, where do I fit in? But the opportunities for me to find sort of this path weren't available. So I just tried everything else, like drinking excessively. But other than that, I think being here with this mindset, it shows me so much about the structure of New Orleans. And I think if you're in an old city, like a city with a lot of history, there's a lot of challenge in bringing people to this new state of consciousness where we have a lot of empathy for one another, where we have a lot of empathy for ourselves, where we don't operate based on programs and what we've been taught. There's a lot of deprogramming that has to happen in New Orleans. And I think the part of it that was hard for me to grow up in here, definitely I still experience now. And I recognize that there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot of hearts to be shifted, and a lot of information to be released from this hub that we've created to just help people love themselves more. Because when people have those programs to be racist or judgmental, there's a part of them that's not fully accepting who they are. So
I fully agree with that.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
And it kind of feels like love is a new movement right now.
It does. There's no one in our generation who hasn't been touched by, this is the way that I want to go, into this direction, love for myself and love for other people. And it's our job to look at the ways that we are held back from that. Like some people can see, okay, I'm operating and I love everyone and I can have love for everyone, but there are always like undercover situations that happened in our childhood. There's always a situation that's going on with a parent or a friend or a coworker that's like rubbing you the wrong way, challenging you. And sometimes people don't identify that opportunity as being an opportunity to love more also by loving yourself and being really authentic in your expression to that person. Like being incredibly honest, that is love. Speaking on behalf of yourself, that's love. Like knowing when your body needs to rest and being able to tell someone that instead of just like fighting through, or knowing when someone has crossed a boundary for you and maybe not using those terms, but saying, you know what, like I appreciate that we work together every day, or I appreciate that we have this relationship, but this part of it, like it doesn't make me feel good. A lot of people have a lot of those feelings with their family members. And the important thing to know is that you don't need to sacrifice your well-being to try to change someone. The most impactful and transformational thing that you can do is to fully work on yourself. And sometimes that requires some separation, but always that work transfers over into other relationships. Sometimes at first it makes the relationship even more shaky because people are not used to seeing you expand, and it makes them uncomfortable. They aren't ready for them to be witnessing your light and everything that you want from your life. It makes people feel uncomfortable sometimes because sometimes they're not doing that for themselves. So actually, I taught a class here a couple of weeks ago. I called it Cleanse, Connect, Manifest. And so we did some cleansing work on triggers and situations that are held in the body, moving that out of the body. And then connecting to like a very introspective place to get some information from spirit animals. And then after that, we did a manifestation practice where I had everyone in the class write down in about 5 different categories. Where do you see your best self? What does it look like? What energetically are you emitting? What does it look like in terms of details, like in your bank account? What does your body look like? What does your body feel like? What does it look like for you to work? Are you working less? Are you resting more? Are you traveling more? Like put all that information in there. And then the last part of the class was write down the top 5 people that you think about or spend time with. And then can they see you in that vibration? And if the answer is no, the relationship either has to be reorganized or released for the moment.
Because you're like answering questions that I haven't even asked you yet. So that's awesome.
That's
so
always
I might
what
repeat
happens.
myself. I'm sorry.
This is a very connected room. So it's like, wow, this has already happened. So it's very easy to kind of be in the flow. But yeah, that's so important because, you know, we're trying to be the creators that we are. And if we're trying to be the creators that we are, then we have to be surrounded by frequencies and energies that support that. And we have to be very honest about the relationships that aren't supporting that. Because if we're spending time with people who are constantly seeing us as our small selves, like, you know, they feel more comfortable with you just as you are, and they're only going to love you if you are doing that for them. That's not allowing your energy to expand. That's not allowing you to be who you are during that time with them or the time that you're thinking about them. And so you aren't working on behalf of your goals when you are participating in that relationship in that way.
Do you think that like compartmentalizing is kind of dangerous to the self and the mind?
I think that there's only so much that our nervous system can handle. So sometimes, you know, we have to be honest and say, you know what, this part of my life isn't serving me, and I'm aware of that. It's very different than just like, this is uncomfortable, let me push it away. It's important to say, I recognize that this is not serving me. I recognize it's not a beneficial situation. I recognize that it's doing X, Y, Z, but I need to put it off until maybe like giving it a date so that it's not just like constant avoidance.
That's smart. I like the idea of giving something like a timeline.
Yeah. And it's good to have, like, when you do this inventory of relationships, you recognize the people who can see you in this way. Those are the people who can help hold you accountable. You know, like my boyfriend, not for a long time, but now, like, he's had to do so much personal work. Crazy. Like, I cannot wait to talk about it on my podcast because he's done, I'm so proud of him. But, so now he is able to really hold me in my light of what I want to accomplish in business, what I want to accomplish physically, what I want to accomplish in terms of like my life resume. He knows those things and he can see them without feeling threatened. So now he can also very clearly say, if I'm not addressing something with an employee or I'm not addressing something with a friend, he sees it as an inefficiency, almost like mathematical. And he's like, you got to handle that. You have to say something. You have to do something differently, or like, Sheena, don't avoid this. And so having people who can see you in your light constantly they want the best for you. They love you unconditionally, you know?
Yeah.
And some people have to learn what that is because it wasn't given to them. Some people weren't loved unconditionally, so they don't know that what they're emitting is conditional love. And so doing that for yourself teaches them, even though you don't necessarily have to do it together.
So with his personal growth, were there growing pains for you two as a couple?
Oh my God. Like, where do I start? Where on earth do I start?
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Oh, yeah. I think the interesting thing is that he was definitely in places where normal societal response would have been like, you got to go. Like, you got to go because you deserve this, blah, blah, blah. And I recognize that for sure. At the same time, maybe I could have left. I did actually leave. We separated when I was in New York. But moving into today and like kind of the new phase of our relationship, there was something inside of me that saw and held the vision for his highest self. And it was something that I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew that it was going to happen. And I also started releasing the necessity for it to happen while he was with me. So I really lost the need for that attachment. I said, if his highest good is him not being with me, or if it's him being in another state or doing something differently, I'm okay with that. So the attachment aspect, I believe, is necessary to release, to allow that transition to happen. But that's definitely not without saying that there are and aren't growing pains, because as he's transforming so vastly too, all of those questions are coming up with him as well. Like, who am I? He had to reestablish that in a lot of ways. And I'm so grateful that I had the strength to hold space for myself and that vision for him, so that we could both kind of traverse through it, knowing that I had to be okay with whatever happened.
That's kind of like really being selfless too, which is, again, a movement of love.
Yeah, because what does he owe me as another human being?
Nothing really.
Nothing.
It's about being together and what you bring out in each other, I feel like.
Exactly.
In relationships.
Yeah. Exactly. Just like a friend that you love with all of your heart, or sister or brother, you want the best for them. There's nothing.
But people tend to, instead of looking at it like that, like a friend or a sister or brother, they look at it as, well, this is a relationship. This is something that is something I don't necessarily have to work on forever. Like, this is disposable at any point. So a lot of people, I feel like, have that mindset.
Yeah. What I found really helpful going through all the things that I go through is to seek information and seek people who embody what I feel to be in line with my highest expression. So it would have never served me to read a traditional book on relationships. Like, here's the man's role, here's the female role. That never made me feel good. I never felt like, oh my gosh, like I'm creating this partnership that has the potential and the possibility for anything. That's not what that programming felt like. So
it's too separate. That's why.
It's exactly like there's no room for flexibility. And I feel that a lot of people in that rigid structure are just waiting for a way to break out. And I don't want that for my boyfriend, and I don't want that for myself. I wanted to create a very strong but flexible relationship where our lives can change and anything's possible, and we can love each other through it. And so I had to seek people who embodied that, and information that embodied that, like conscious relationship advice. I know John Weiland is a really good resource for that. He, I believe, works with Guru Jagat at Rama, which is a yoga studio, but they put a lot of information out there. Aubrey Marcus, do you know who that is?
Yes,
he owns On It, and he has a podcast. Yeah. He's a great representation of that as well. He is so authentic and goes through the shit and talks about it. So he's not perfect, but I don't think any of us are. And I think the things that have made us pretend, or like the resources and the people who have written things that have said, like, this is the way, there's always something faulty in that. So I appreciate that he's kind of gone through his journey.
Well, it's awesome that you guys also came back to each other.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like from just hearing you talk about it, it was kind of meant to be.
Yeah.
The way that everything worked out. So that's awesome. Can you walk us through a day in the life of Sheena?
Oh my God.
Like, do you have morning rituals or routines or night routines, things like that?
Yeah. So right when I wake up in the morning, I try to kind of stay in that state of being asleep, but with consciousness, so that I can connect to the frequency of my dreams. And because my dreams are, and everyone's dreams are so, so powerful, and they are deemed to be the first psychedelic. Our dreams were used before compounds were used to get to that state that is outside of our reality, quote unquote. So I honor that, respect that, and give time to that experience because it's so informative. It changes your emotional template. actually. Like there's so many emotions involved with dreaming and connecting to people and connecting to situations and ideas for your life, that ignoring the fact that it came from a place within you and ignoring the time in which might take to integrate to it, I think that you're just like throwing away one of your biggest tools. So I probably spend like 30 minutes still in bed trying to connect to frequencies from my dream, and like writing it sometimes doesn't make sense because it jumps from scene to scene often, and it's like a lot of information. So sometimes I'll just sit there and just think about it, and then I'll get up and I usually make a matcha at home and with almond milk and adaptogens, and just make something really yummy and delicious. And then I'll go on our balcony and do maybe like a 15-minute meditation. And it will usually be focusing on whatever I'm trying to work on at the time. So right now, like the past 2 weeks, I've been doing like a wealth abundance meditation. And then after that, sometimes we'll have breakfast, Evan and I together. Evan goes to a field close by our house and does a meditation with like animals and being outside. So we'll usually like meet up after that and like sometimes have breakfast. I'll be resisting the urge to start working almost immediately. So I'll just like try to stay away from my phone until it's time to work, which if we're eating breakfast, then I'll try to wait until afterwards. And then, but after that, you know, like we also put a lot of attention in our home space. So we'll like clean, fix the bed, like make it energetically sound so that when we come back home from work, it is a supportive space and not like something that feels chaotic. So that's pretty, standard. And then everything else that happens is usually like, what the fuck is going on, at work, what's going on, in the world, where do I need to be? I'm somewhat of a person who's trying to learn how I can implement more organization in some ways, because I've been so resistant to it for so long. I have to find ways that when I do include it into my life, it feels right. It doesn't feel forced. So that's what I'm working with now. So some days there's like a podcast day and then an accounting day and a marketing day. But I would be lying if I said that. Normally it's not just like, Sheena, this is happening. What do I do with this? For like an hour. And then I'm like, who am I? What am I doing in the world? But yeah, so I would say pretty unstructured after that, but that's basically my morning routine. And then 2 days a week, I do Pilates in the morning, and during the fall and like when it's a little bit cooler, I usually take some long walks. So either in the morning or in the afternoon.
So since you mentioned meditation, do you have advice for someone like me who is trying to get good at meditation, but like I can't get my brain to shut the fuck up? Like it just is not possible. I try to sit there and like really focus on my thoughts and try to clear them. But it's like something always loops back around. And then I start thinking about like laundry and groceries and just whatever else,
So I think that technique-based meditation can be helpful. Transcendental meditation, focusing on a mantra. Have you tried that?
So I did take a Kundalini class one time. It was a little intense, but yeah, powerful.
Super intense. So that's, that's structured based meditation. Transcendental meditation seems to be a very easy to integrate form of meditation for a lot of people, because your body is designed to be very comfortable. So you can be laying down and you're just repeating a mantra. The source of the mantra is kind of the question, because the lineage requires you to pay a lot of money to one person to give you the mantra. So some people are kind of like, why do I need to do that? I can meditate on my own. True statement. You can make up your own mantra, whatever you want to work on. And the method is to just repeat it. There's certain breathing particulars in Transcendental as well. And it is a beautiful practice. So I would never discount someone's capacity to utilize that really well. But actually, one of the most interesting things about what I've found recently in relation to meditation is that when I've done psychedelics, like mushrooms or MDMA, they teach you the resonance and the frequency of what it means to be really connected. And it almost reinforces your meditation practice because when you're there, you know it. So I've used those experiences to kind of help me learn how to meditate better.
Have you ever done DMT?
So DMT it's very similar to psilocybin. So I've done lots of mushrooms. I haven't done ayahuasca, which is the
It's the one that like makes you throw up, right?
Sometimes.
Or it can. I mean, mushrooms make me throw up. That's why I can't do them anymore.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Every single time. Not every single time. I shouldn't say that. I've only done it twice, but both times I threw up like violently at the
Did
end.
you cleanse before?
No, it was kind of just like a last minute, hey, let's try this kind of thing. And we did like the tea, and then the second time it was Kool-Aid. I also get very emotional. So it's like a release for me. I cry the entire time.
This is
normal?
This is great information for you.
Okay.
Because basically there are probably things that you're not addressing that you don't want to look at. A. B, a lot of your emotional template is restricted and I deal with the same thing too. I'm like, especially at first, it was easier for me to cry and do that sort of thing. But I would recommend maybe looking into like if there's a therapist in your area who would sit with you while you were taking MDMA to help you navigate through the parts of you that are shut down. That is a heart opening drug. And I actually just interviewed someone on my podcast. His name is Emmanuel Stevens, I believe. And he created Dance Safe, which is a testing kit for MDMA because most MDMA is cut with methamphetamine. And so it's not the experience, not the therapeutic experience that you want. Having that pure experience with MDMA oftentimes can bring you into that heart-centered space, especially if you're with a very strong therapist, someone who knows how to navigate human emotions to help you kind of open up and see the things that you've been unwilling to see. That might be a good first stop for you.
Yeah. And
mushrooms are intense.
They are very intense. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a very sensitive person or what, but I cry and I break down. And, my boyfriend was like, why are you crying so much? I'm like, I don't know. I need to. You do.
Do you cry a lot in everyday life?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I try not to, but.
So it's breaking down all of your walls of resistance.
Yeah. And then whenever I did DMT, like that, I did that Christmas Eve, and it was such a trippy experience because I went somewhere else.
Yeah.
I was not in my body. Something else took over and was like, to explain it without sounding like an insane person, it felt like things were like working on my body and I was in pain.
Oh yeah.
Like down to my teeth. My teeth were hurting. And then they were taking me through rooms. I don't know what they are. And then I just saw, I guess what they call the divine feminine, or I'm not sure what the energy is called, but it's this woman type figure with this long white hair. And she just,
she's there for you. So whatever you want to call her.
And I mean, I just felt like at that point I felt loved. And I opened my eyes. I kept trying to open my eyes to make sure I was still like in my living room. Okay. And my boyfriend was sitting right here. Like, and I could feel him sending me like love vibes. It was the wildest experience ever. And then when I finally came like out of it, I was just like, I don't even know where I just went. I feel like I just lived 10,000 lives and visited planets and went through like dimensions and time. Like it was crazy. Yeah. So I recommend DMT, but
that's awesome. And yeah, why not like discover many different ones to see which one works for you? I'm so glad that you remembered so much of your experience.
I made sure to.
Awesome.
It was just so weird because I'd never felt pain like that before. Like my teeth were buzzing and like these little things were just all over me. It was just weird.
I do believe that those experiences open up the capacity of our brain to accept the energy around us that is trying to support us or influence us. So I always try to tell people to place a really strong intention before doing any psychedelic, because you want the energy around you to understand and know what you're trying to achieve through that experience. It's important because you're not trying to just get high. Like
right.
when you're
No.
using these medicines, you are trying to access a place within you for healing and for greater awareness and for enhanced consciousness. And so, definitely use that time before to align with that. And I think that it changes the experience completely. I interviewed a therapist locally. Her name's Sherry Taylor, and she's doing the MDMA trials in New Orleans for legalizing or rescheduling MDMA as a drug, which is very important work because therapists have used it for centuries, and it was improperly illegalized in the 80s. And so her work, her research is working with the government to reschedule it so that therapists can use it again. And her trials and the phases that she has done the research through with MDMA has shown such improvement that when the patients go back to the therapists to continue their personal work after their MDMA sessions, their therapists will usually report things like, it would have taken us 30 years to get here.
Wow.
Bottom line, like it would have taken us 30 years for us to get to the place that you got in 3 MDMA sessions.
And that's powerful because a lot of people need that relief like as soon as possible.
Oh gosh. Yes. A lot of these people are veterans who couldn't operate in the world and finished this trial and no longer had any signs of PTSD, going from like 80% of their life being directed by their fear of existence because of all the trauma they've been through to being able to completely see and acknowledge that experience in their life and to be able to move on and live a life outside of that is huge.
Yeah. Wow.
I know. Take a second for that to like absorb because it's major. And then it's not without knowing that you're showing up to continue to work. Mm-hmm. Like that's why I'm so grateful that you're doing your podcast, because this is you saying we're all humans and we all have this stuff to navigate. And the more that it becomes talked about and the more accepted it becomes, the more that people who are really stuck can start doing it a little bit and loving themselves more through it. And then knowing that like when they come out on the other side, it's not just rainbows and butterflies. You still have to continue doing the work, but it makes your human experience so much lighter and the experience becomes more joyful and you can move past the things that really had no business being in your body and in your template for you to be the creative being that you are.
Yeah. Wow. I want to talk about, Raw Republic, but I'm like, how do I segue into that? This is intense. I like it.
Oh my God, I know.
Sorry, I'm like...
Every conversation that I have with everyone, people are like, you're so intense. I'm like, I know.
Not in a bad way.
I am, though.
It's not a bad thing.
That's why I think...
Like the knowledge.
Yeah.
Intense, but it's like a good, like it's nice to hear it.
Yeah, I think that it's probably why I have to spend a lot of time alone, because it takes a lot of energy, I guess, to share what I feel like I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I like the format of the podcast, because it can be kind of an energy transfer and then I can step back from it a little bit.
And it is more intimate versus like,
exactly.
Numbing out and watching a show.
Right.
You feel like you're connecting with actual people because these are, whether it's reality TV or, a sitcom, you're actually listening to someone who's been through something.
Right.
So
right.
I think, podcasts are a powerful platform these days.
I think it's a part of the work. Also, I think it's not just that we're being called to do the work ourselves, but to also share it with other people. So I think that it's a continuation, and whether that's through a podcast or whether that's through art or whether that's through whatever someone's creating, that is kind of just, I think, what we're being called to do.
Mm-hmm. And did you feel called to open your juice bar?
Yes, very much so. I think initially there was a competitive part of me that was like, I want to be the first cold pressed organic juice bar in Louisiana. So I had like a time pressure and like I want to be really young when I do it and like all this stuff that like means nothing to me now. But I think that was a part of the beginning because it was really purposeful for me to make it happen. I think I needed some of that adrenaline to get it going quickly because as soon as it opened, it's like my life, my world, all the doors just started opening to change and evolution and sharing, and all the things that I've done since then and continue to do are really the foundation of it in a lot of ways is this business.
So when did you open Raw Republic?
We have our 5-year anniversary coming up
Congratulations.
in November. Thank
That's
you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So was it a difficult experience at first? Like what was the initial experience for you?
The initial experience was a lot of like being here until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, taking out the trash, like picking up 50-pound bags of carrots and 100-pound boxes of cucumbers and not knowing how I was going to produce for the demand, not knowing, I didn't even know how to close out my cash register. I had no clue, which is like, my accounting sister came the first week that we were open and I was like, tell me what to do with this. I had no idea. So it absolutely was a huge learning curve, but I wouldn't trade it because I'm not I jump into everything without knowing exactly what's going to happen. How can I not? Like, it's just, no one knows for sure. So I feel grateful that I've kind of like gotten used to that process. Like things are not going to look perfect. They're not going to be lined out exactly in the way that makes me feel safe or comfortable, and I just have to go. And so that initial experience was definitely a teacher of that, and kind of continues to be, because I really never know how things are going to evolve and change, and I have to just continuously trust the process.
Do you have any advice for anyone that's like wanting to start their own business?
I think to really be aligned with what you love is very important, because even though someone may be an entrepreneurial person, they may not want to do all aspects of the business, and really identifying, I like this, I don't like this, from a place of connecting with yourself and just saying like, this feels like a waste of my time. This feels like I should be running the other direction. And knowing in that moment that it's so much more beneficial to delegate that or to get someone else to do it, to find a partner who's good at that. It's really important, because an entrepreneur, in a sense, is trying to output the energy and the creativity that's coming through them. When you place implications on that activity, like if you're coming from a restricted mindset and you think that you need to do everything in order to be successful, the output of that creativity diminishes greatly. You're not, in essence, doing what your soul wants to do. And so you find out really quickly, because you become very exhausted and it becomes unfun. And then what comes to mind is like, well, why am I doing this if it's unfun? I'm making less money likely than when I was working for someone else. Usually that's the case, especially for the first couple of years. And it's not fun. I'm not doing the reason why I decided to start my own business. I'm not living the life. And so you have to be very courageous in creating and designing your life to meet the business and not the other way around.
Makes sense. Did you ever think that your juices would eventually earn you a dick pic?
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry, I had to.
That was a shocking experience.
Can you share that story? Because I died laughing.
Oh my God. Well, okay. So actually, I had received that picture probably like 3 months ago, and it was just the picture from a number that I didn't know. So I just deleted it. Like, whatever. Wasn't a big deal. So 3 months later, when I was on a walk, it was Saturday this week, I was on a walk. I was like walking to a smoothie bar close to my house. I live about 45 minutes away. and the first text message pops up and it's just like, I don't know if you remember me. It's very gentle. Like, I actually didn't know if it was a man or a woman. So it was just like the messages coming through were just, I don't know if you remember me, but I came into the juice bar about a year ago. I love your juices. They really helped to get me through the work week. I'm so thankful. And I'm like, cool. Like, great.
What a nice message.
Yeah. In my mind,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no idea who this person is, but you know, my customers do have a tendency to find my number or my email to say things like that. And I appreciate it. So my response was, and I was in a really good mood. I was like, thanks so much. Happy juice babies in the world. Which of course my boyfriend after the fact was like, juice babies, really? Like, okay, whatever.
Kind of on brand for
Yeah.
that situation.
It was like, whatever. So I guess that gave him the go ahead to respond with that same picture that I had seen 3 months earlier, probably from the same number that I had deleted. And I was like, okay, that's where we're going with this. So that was it.
Instant block.
I'll show you the picture.
Oh Lord, please do.
I
I
will.
want to see it.
It's not a real DP, but you see the outline, and it's pretty
Impressive or no?
it's not something you can look past
Okay.
very easily. Yeah, I if someone would have said that I would experience a third of the things that I've experienced since opening this juice bar, I wouldn't have believed them. There it is.
Okay. Well,
There he is.
Yeah. I mean,
kudos. I hope he listens to this podcast. You're going to make someone very happy someday.
He's feeling himself.
yeah, I mean, great body.
Yeah, I still haven't found the perfect response for him.
So I don't know if you want to like talk about crazy water at all, because I actually brought you crazy water from Texas because I live there and you can only find it, I guess, in Texas.
Yes.
So Mineral Wells actually has this crazy hotel called the Baker Hotel. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
Super, super haunted. And I've been.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Mineral Wells is kind of a pretty well-known place for that hotel.
Okay.
So the crazy water thing, I didn't realize that they were actually from Mineral Wells. I just saw it at Central Market after I listened to the episode with
Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I just heard about this. And then I think it was actually like the same day. I was on my way to Central
saw it.
Market and I was listening to that episode and I was like, okay, now I have to pick up like a couple bottles and try this. So they didn't have the fizz one. They only had the 2, the 3, and the 4. So I
Yeah.
grabbed one of each.
Mm-hmm.
4 was too much for me.
Yeah. It's a lot of minerality,
Yeah.
which has a taste.
Yeah. So it was different, but it did kind of make me feel better.
Oh, yeah.
Which-
If you're hungover or
Yeah.
you are mineral deficient and you drink mineral water, it's one of the most cleansing, healing, nourishing things that you can do for sure. I'm so grateful you brought me Crazy Fizz. It's like my favorite.
When we saw it at Buc-ee's, I was like, I have to try it because that's the only one I haven't tried. And I'm obsessed now.
I'm obsessed with it. Did you try it?
I did not. That was also my first time going to Buc-ee's.
Oh, yeah.
She had never been to
That was
Buc-ee's.
the experience.
That's an experience in and of itself. So the Crazy Fizz, I love mineral water and I love water that comes from natural sources and that isn't, because of the information that I've learned from Martin and people who are very well versed in the water conversation. It's almost like you can't go back. Like it's like knowing that a McDonald's hamburger is made with something that is so far removed from the meat that you think that you're consuming that you can't, with consciousness, consume it. So I just feel the same way about water now, that a Dasani water, it's like I'd rather not drink
Dasani
water.
is my least favorite. It's disgusting to me.
It's purified poop water.
Ew.
That's what it is. It's literally what you flush down your toilet, goes into your municipal water system, and then they clean it, quote unquote, with chemicals usually to make it something that they can then bottle. Same with smart water.
No.
Yeah, hate to say
crap.
it. Yeah, I know, right? I don't think she knows. I really, really want to tell her. Yeah,
You
for
should
those who
reach
didn't hear
out
that,
and
we were
tell
talking
her.
about Jennifer Aniston. She just probably doesn't know. But yes, smart water, and it is disclosed on their website. It comes from a municipal water source, and electrolytes are added to it, and minerals are added to it. But the source is the same. The source is that it comes from groundwater, so either like whatever rains on the street and then goes down a drain,
Ew.
or whatever is flushed down your shower or down your toilet and then cleaned, quote unquote.
So we do have some listener questions. Kathleen wants to know if you were raised in any specific religion.
Oh, that's such a good question. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and I think my parents tried to be Catholic the best that they could. They weren't big compliance-oriented people, so we would go to church every once in a while. I would say that it gave a good foundation of what I didn't want for my foundation of spirituality.
So how did you become more spiritual in the way that you are spiritual?
I think I did a good job of just connecting with that which interested me. When I was in New York, it was just a very explorative time where someone was going to hug Amma. I don't know if you've heard of Amma.
Mm-hmm.
She's the hugging saint, quote unquote. She spends her life showing up to conference centers all across the world to hug people. And she whispers something in your ear. She gives you a hug. And generally there's someone there behind you to catch you after that experience, because you energetically, there's something that happens and you kind of just like fall.
I want to meet her.
She's an amazing being. But so I started having some experiences like that in New York where I just like, do you want to go to this thing? Yeah, actually I do. Do you want to go to, like, I was like, I don't know. I just had a lot of openness to discovering different methods of spirituality. And once I started building that template of knowing that spirituality comes from within me and I can use tools to access that, it became a lot less rigid and a lot more loving. And that kind of became what I've created to be my spiritual relationship with myself. Just what am I interested in? What feels right? What excites me? What piques my curiosity? What am I interested in exploring? That's my momentum towards spirituality. I think that we're really in a time where the idea of a guru or someone who can impart information that you don't have access to, I think that we're in a time where we're understanding that there's some falsity relating to that, because we're all in this human experience, and a priest has the same capacity for connection as you do. And so knowing that and understanding that with love brings you to a place where you now have responsibility to discover that which you are interested in learning about in relation to your spirituality, outside of what someone else says is appropriate or right.
So with the crystals and like the meditation aspect, how did you know, and like honestly your energy healing, because I know you do quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
How did you realize that you had gifts relating to that?
I wouldn't call them gifts. I would call them just another another format of knowledge. So I knew that I was interested in learning about it. And once I showed up to learn about it, I recognized like I had the same capacity to do it as everyone else around me. How much can I get out of my way to allow that to happen, while also holding a really positive and strong intention for the person that I'm doing it with? Not for, with. Like we're doing it together.
It's an experience.
Yeah. And so having that mindset, I think, makes the experience stronger for the user. And it also, me coming from a place where I'm telling the people who I do energy healing for or with, I don't know anything that you don't know. I'm nowhere above you. I don't have a power that you don't have. We're simply opening your energetic field to receive information. Maybe some of that information I can filter and see for you and help you work through it. Maybe some of the information neither one of us need to consciously know. I mean, it can just be imparted in your physical template to create some changes in your life. And oftentimes people do find that their body begins operating with a different vibration, and then that brings in different opportunities and experiences for them to learn what their intention was when they walked into that energy healing session. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you brought it up right after the conversation about Christianity, because a lot of people are very, especially in New Orleans, are very, they feel very threatened by the idea of energy healing and crystals and meditation.
It's interesting because I feel like this would be a place where it would be more accepted.
I guess it's also a very religious place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that comes with a lot of fear.
But I feel like with religion comes fear more than anything.
I don't know that people who are so invested in religion can see it in that way. But I agree, because if there's something that I'm doing that maybe says, you're not seeing the whole picture, I'm open to that information. Whereas a lot of people who are very ingrained in their religious footprint, they're not open to hearing the information. And so I feel like that's a really good gauge of, are you operating in fear? Are you operating in openness and love? Because you can't have love without acceptance of all that is. And so if you are not participating in something or not doing something or not willing to hear a different perspective or a different idea, then you're saying that the avoidance of that works better for your life. And I find that oftentimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it puts people into a place of restriction, not only in relation to their spirituality, but also their physical body, their emotional body. They experience less of life because of what they're afraid of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sam wants to know, how did you and Amberly become friends?
Let's see.
And where is Amberly?
She lives where I live on the North Shore, so we both live about 45 minutes away, and I think she may have a session here today, so she may be here a little bit later. But
not that I'm stalking or anything. Maybe I'll get to say hi.
She and I met, I'm trying to think of if someone introduced us, but it was at the time where I was very, very curious about energy healing, and she was just like so strong in her commitment to learning and absorbing as much knowledge about metaphysics, different types of energy healing methods. And so when we came together, it was just like a boom, like here's so much information involved and a friendship to us, like exploring that part of our lives. And she's still she's such a metaphysical healing person. So she's someone who I continuously go to for this conversation about energy and energy healing. And it's almost like she's a medicine doctor of energy. And so she's a great resource for information and a really good friend. And yeah, so I think we met. Oh, actually, we met because she came here to just see what my life was like as a business owner. She just wanted to ask a couple of questions. She was ready to move on from a corporate job. And so we just hung out for maybe an hour. And she would just kind of come and visit the juice bar. And then when I think I was moving to the North Shore and just kind of looking for people to talk to about this new aspect of my life that I found interesting, that's when we kind of clicked and just started hanging out a lot and talking a lot about crazy stuff like aliens and energy healing and stuff like that. Is that the next question?
It is, actually. You're psychic here. What is your thoughts on the tall grays, and what has been your craziest alien experience, if you've had one?
I still find it very I don't want to say shocking, but reaffirming when I think about beings outside of our reality and I can see lights and blinks of energy around the person I'm talking to, or in my bedroom, or in corners of the room. I see it as an affirmation that we're connecting to something that doesn't have a physical reality. And so that happens all the time, and it happens continuously, and it happens more and more and more the more that I allow it. And so it's not that I would say there's one crazy experience. I think that in itself is in a lot of people's minds, that would be considered crazy. What do I think about the tall grays? I think there's no way that we could define all of the body's physical, non-physical, energetic, emotional that are present in our universe. There's no possible way that we could define it. I think that there's some interesting information about reptilian energy being present in the earth that has communicated with and potentially crossbred with human energy, that maybe we still have a huge part of that as part of our DNA. Potentially that connects us to the earth, and then potentially that connects us to other beings in a different capacity for connection. I don't know. I would be wrong if I said that I knew for sure, because I think that any possibility is probable. Mm-hmm. I really do. Amberly has a different answer to that, though. Oh, for sure. Dang. She definitely feels, she has, I guess, more trust in her capacity to define what she's communicating with. For me, I try to just be very autonomous and sovereign in my being, so that the information that I receive is in alignment with my intentions. Because I do think that there are things that are out there and energies that are out there that are not in alignment with my goals. And I don't want to fear them. I want to accept and love that they are there and present and necessary. But I am also trying to be very strong in saying, I don't wish for you to interact in this experience because I want to heal my body, or I want to expand my business, and that energy is not fitting in this template at this moment. So I think through intention, you consciously say what is allowed and what is not.
And it's, again, kind of setting boundaries.
Exactly.
But it's more of like an energy boundary.
Exactly.
That's cool. What are your favorite juices for different ailments or needs? And then any kind of like healthy living hacks or tips?
Whenever people ask me to pick my favorite juice, it's like, if you had 4 kids,
how do you pick a favorite?
How do you pick a favorite? They all have different personalities and different purposes. Let me see quickly what I would say. The Potion X is such a good and fast healer. So if you have any digestive upset, if you have headaches, if you have nausea, if you are hungover, Potion X with the charcoal and the cardamom and the tea, it's hydrating and it's cleansing and detoxifying. So that is like a super one that I love, love, love. Another one that's sometimes underrated is our wellness tea, which is we get 11 different bulk herbs into the kitchen and we blend them by hand. And it's like everything from like red raspberry, which is great for hormonal balance, to oat straw, peppermint, what else is in there? I've made it so many times. We have a couple of flowers. There's rose hips, chamomile, soothing for your stomach. I mean, it was designed by a naturopath to be what you would need to soothe all of your body systems. So it's an amazing product.
And that's the wellness tea?
It's called the wellness tea. And then and I kind of have those as like, those are my tea categories. My juice categories, it's like the colors are so vibrant that when you look at them, they speak to your chakral system and they speak to your, did you think that too?
So, yeah.
Yeah. Color.
So we both like right what our eyes went to as well.
Immediately, I was like,
Yes.
I don't know, what do you recommend? And he was like, just whatever's calling to you. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this one, I don't know, it's black, so I don't know. Hopefully that's not anything negative about my chakras.
No, I think that when we allow things other than humans to interact with us energetically, we get a lot of information. We just sometimes aren't as willing to do that. And color speaks to us in so many ways. And so being in front of the juice refrigerator and asking your body like what it's most attracted to, it's such a good practice. Like I definitely notice when my hormones need some rebalancing, restructuring, I'm going for a carrot juice, which is amazing for hormonal balance. It's amazing for hair, skin, and nails. It's great for your skin. Tons of vitamin C. It's anti-cancer. It's just like anything. So like I can just feel it. I feel energetically drawn to that color. And then if I need like phytonutrients and I need a boost of chlorophyll, if I need to detoxify, like I see all of the greens. And a lot of times, because I know the ingredients in them too, I can see in my mind's eye the color of the ingredients and will be guided in that way too. So my favorite green juice varies between Thai greens, which is bok choy, orange, celery, basil, and a little lemon and apple. And my second favorite green juice is the all greens with lemon. That one's like super alkalizing. The only fruit is lemon. So that one's really nice. Like if you've had too much sugar and you kind of need to alkalize your body a little bit. And, I mean, I drink them all the time.
I would too. These are amazing. I wish that there was one of these in Texas.
Thank you.
You should open a store in Texas. Since I have been listening to you for such a long time, and you're such a positive, just like influence and just person in general, how do you stay so positive in a world that kind of seems to be falling apart daily?
Do I stay positive? I think that I have a tendency to share what I feel that I'm working through, and that's a positive expression for me, because even if it's not easy, it's something that we get to do. In terms of like the rest of the world being super negative and challenging, I don't really pay attention to it in that way. I think for some reason I think I used to, but I'm not really as affected by what's happening like in the political front and the social front. I feel like it's a lot of just expressions of energy. And so saying that it's inherently negative or positive doesn't feel right to me, because I kind of just feel like it's expression. And I think that when people tune into themselves, they'll recognize that they have to fight less. I think that people just find that like the battle that they're trying to fight is within themselves.
Mm-hmm. A lot of projection these days.
Yeah. So I guess I just like my curiosity doesn't bring me to those places right now. I definitely get angry and I definitely get upset about the way that certain things are. I'm trying to think of the last thing that made me kind of annoyed or upset. I hear a lot about medical experiences that make me upset. You know, I definitely feel for people who don't seem to be given options that are more healing, in my opinion, than surgery or prescriptive medications that harm their physical template more than they benefit them. So I get upset about things like that. But I'm not in a place where I want to fight. I'm in a place where I feel like spreading my message enhances the positivity of that instead of fighting, I guess.
Or focusing on the negative, really.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who feels like they are either stuck in a rut or lost in life, like not knowing their place, whether it be they feel like they're stuck in a certain city or not happy with their job or their current situation and kind of don't know what to do?
I think that my first piece of advice for people who are feeling stuck would be you have to be the warrior of your life. So do anything to get yourself clear on where you see yourself and where you want to be, whether that's a vision board or like a journal entry of just saying like, I want to live here, or energetically, this place feels good to me. I need this much money, to feel supported. I want my job to provide this for me, whether seeing me, allowing me to use my talents. I want my relationships to be in alignment with the way that I view myself. Something simple like that, or creating a vision board. And then I think that you have to be the warrior. You have to say, okay, if I'm interested in having a healthy physical body, I have to get myself up and do something healthy. I have to clean up my diet. And I have to fight for my life in doing that. If I want to change my career, I have to get up and I have to fight for my life to make that happen. I have to, and the important thing is to not be overwhelmed in trying to do everything at once, knowing that when you take that next first step into that direction, it's a domino effect. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but like you can knock down a domino 50% larger than itself. So you start with a small domino, and the domino affects bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger challenges just from having started with that one small step. So that's all you need to do and commit to. I think that if you're unclear about what those things are, that's where you need to start. You know, like do some psychedelics, show up to a meditation class. Ask yourself, like, you know, if I wasn't programmed by the people around me, if I wasn't just doing what my friends are doing, what would I do? If my boyfriend wasn't telling me what to eat for dinner, what to watch on TV, like what would my answer be? And start creating a strong relationship with that communication, because that subtle communication gets stomped on all the fucking time by culture, by people around you, because it's quiet. That inner voice inside of you, it's subtle. And so the more that you listen to it and act on behalf of it, the stronger it will become. And the more that you will strengthen your capacity to be able to be courageous on behalf of yourself. Sometimes it makes people feel uncomfortable, but you are the warrior of your own life. You have to do it on behalf of yourself because no one else is going to do it for you.
While we wrap up, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much. Like, I am beyond grateful for this entire experience. I feel changed. I don't know. Absolutely. The energy, I feel
You're
it.
so
It's just,
sweet.
it's so
Thank
positive, and it's kind of what I needed. Are there any upcoming events that you're hosting that we can kind of plug for you? Or like, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah. Find me by my real name, Sheena Mannina, on Instagram. And my podcast Instagram is Raw Talk with Sheena. My juice bar is Raw Republic Juice on Instagram. I think that I'm going to be teaching that class that I referenced in the podcast pretty regularly, Cleanse, Connect, Manifest. And maybe I'll find a way to put it online. And we have some things coming in the new year. So just definitely keep up with me on social media and sign up for my newsletter on my website, SheenaMannina.com, to be the first to know about those things.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you're a part of sharing an experience that is so uniquely yours, that is going to change so many people, because even if it changes one person, that one person changes an infinite number of people, and that's changing the world. And so you showing up for this is so powerful and so important. And so I am just as grateful that you are doing what you're doing. So high five, sister.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Bewitching Hour podcast. Again, I'm your host, Kat, and you can follow me on Instagram at Kat Alexander with 2 R's. You can follow the Bewitching Hours Instagram at Bewitching Podcast. And please, don't forget to rate me 5 stars and leave a nice review. In perfect love and perfect trust, until next time.
She was just a wish. She was just a wish. And a memory is all that is left of her now. Lightning strikes, maybe once, maybe twice.